Imagine for a second that you're in a terrible accident, one so bad that it leaves you unable to move. It sounds like something there's no coming back from, right? But what if your own body held the secret to fixing what seems absolutely impossible to repair? Well, today, we're going to dive into the incredible story of the body's master repair kit, stem cells. For a young man named Kristopher Boesen, this wasn't just an idea. It was his reality. Back in 2016, a really bad car accident left him paralyzed from the neck down. His injuries were so severe he could barely even breathe. For him, the future looked, well, pretty hopeless. Chris's story really forces us to ask a huge question. Is it actually possible for the human body to heal from an injury that devastating? The answer, it turns out, might be hiding in some of the most special, most powerful cells we have. Okay, let's get into it. So to even understand how a story like Chris's is possible, we need to talk about the body's own internal repair system. Now, scientists call them stem cells, but honestly, you can just think of them as our body's master cells. So what exactly is a stem cell? Well, it's basically a special cell that hasn't decided what it wants to be when it grows up. Think of it like a blob of clay. It's the raw material that our body can use to build literally anything it needs. These master cells can build, they can repair, and in some cases, they can even rebuild us. The real superpower of a stem cell is its ability to change. This process has a kind of fancy name. It's called differentiation. All it means is that one of these basic, undecided stem cells can transform into a super specialized cell, like a muscle cell for your heart, or a nerve cell for your brain, or even a red blood cell. It's this amazing ability to become something else that makes them so incredibly powerful. Now, here's the thing. Not all stem cells are the same. They really come in two main types, kind of like having two different kinds of builders working on a house. Each one has different skills and comes from a completely different place in the body. Let's break down these two types. So first up, we have embryonic stem cells. These guys are what we call pluripotent, which is just a sciencey way of saying they can become any cell in the entire body. Think of them like a brand new graduate who can choose any career path they want. Then you have adult stem cells, which we find in places like our bone marrow. They're multipotent, which means they're a bit more limited, more like a trained apprentice who's an expert at one specific job. So a stem cell from bone marrow can make all kinds of new blood cells, but it can't make a brain cell. And that difference is really, really important. And all of this brings us right back to Kristopher Boesen. Facing this impossible situation, he made a brave choice. He decided to be part of an experimental treatment, one that relied on the incredible anything is possible power of those embryonic stem cells we just talked about. So how did it actually work? Well, it was basically a three-step process. First, in a lab, scientists took embryonic stem cells and grew millions of special cells from them. Second, doctors carefully injected all of those new cells right into the injured part of Chris's spinal cord. And the goal? Well, the hope was for these new cells to get to work repairing the damaged nerves and helping his body start to heal itself. And the results, they were just amazing. In just 2 weeks, Chris started to get small movements back in his arms and hands. I mean, look at this progress. After only 3 months, he could feed himself, he could use his phone, and he could even write his own name. He went from being totally paralyzed to getting his independence back. It's just incredible. Chris's story is, of course, incredible, but it's just one example. So let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. What is the promise of this technology for everyone? And, what are the challenges we still have to figure out? You might be thinking, was Chris just a 1 in a million lucky story? Well, not exactly. Some studies have estimated that stem cell therapies have an effectiveness rate of around 82.2%, though it really depends on the condition being treated. Millions of patients all over the world have already been treated, mostly for blood disorders like leukemia, using those adult stem cells from bone marrow. So the potential here it's just huge. Researchers are working around the clock, using stem cells to try and treat some of the world's toughest diseases, replacing brain cells that are lost to Alzheimer's, repairing hearts after a heart attack, maybe giving sight back to the blind, and get this, maybe one day even growing brand new organs in a lab. But we've got to be realistic. The promise is incredible, but it's matched by some major challenges. The advantages are pretty clear. Repairing damaged tissue, offering hope for diseases that have no cure right now. But the challenges are serious too. There are big ethical debates, especially about using embryonic stem cells. The treatments are also extremely expensive, and we still don't fully know all the long-term effects. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, stem cells really are the fundamental building blocks for a whole new kind of medicine. And this isn't just science fiction anymore. It's a technology that is already here, and it's already turning these terrible stories of injury and disease into powerful stories of hope and recovery. And that really brings us to the future. We've seen how stem cells can help with paralysis and blood diseases. But as this science gets better and better, you gotta wonder, what do you think is next? Will it be fixing hearts, curing brain diseases, or maybe something we can't even imagine yet? The story is really just beginning.